us to look at monitoring horseshoe crabs, or what we call the Horseshoe Crab Watch. We're going to talk today a little bit about the purpose or the objectives of this project, and then go over the procedures on how to do it. And when we're all done, if you're interested in doing this, you'll have my email at the bottom, and you can contact me and we will assign you a site and get you going. The purpose of the objective, if you're not familiar with the animal, I think most of you are, but if you're not, the horseshoe crab is an amazing creature. We find it in rocks that date back prior to the dinosaur era. So it's been on this planet for a long, long time and really hasn't changed a whole lot. It's really a tough creature. But right now, the animal is kind of on the decline, and that's got folks in multiple states along the East Coast and the Gulf Coast of the United States a little bit concerned. The horseshoe crab, there's actually 4 different species of them, and believe it or not, they're not crabs. If you look at a crab is a crustacean. Crustaceans can be defined by having 10 legs and 2 sets of antennae, 2 short and 2 long. Arachnids, the spiders, don't have any antennae. And most of you have seen those, or scorpions, or ticks, or chiggers. They're actually, the horseshoe crabs, more closely related to them. The arachnids do have 8 legs. The horseshoe crab will have 10, but it does lack the antenna, so it's more closely related to the arachnids than it is actually the crustaceans. But it's a big horseshoe-shaped animal with a long spine, which is completely harmless. They use that to flip themselves over. They get washed up in the wash zone quite a bit. They live all along the eastern, as I said, the eastern and the Gulf Coast of the United States. I did mention there are 4 different species still alive on the planet today. In our neck of the woods, there's only one. That includes the United States. We're talking about the entire shoreline, which is called Limulus polyphemus is the scientific name of this animal, but what everybody knows is a horseshoe crab. They were once common throughout this area, but again, as I said, they're on the decline, which is again kind of concerning. There's multiple reasons why they might be on decline. One, the blood is actually copper-based, not iron-based like ours, so the blood appears blue when it makes contact with oxygen, and there is an enzyme within that blood that actually clots when it comes in contact with bacteria. May have been a part of why the animal has done so well for so long. But where we use it is sterilizing medical equipment. And anybody who's ever gone to a hospital or a doctor's office and had a medical procedure done can thank the horseshoe crab, because all that stuff is checked and sterilized using this enzyme from the horseshoe crab. Unfortunately, they do bleed the animal to get the enzyme. And the intent is not to kill it, but obviously a lot of them don't make it, and so that has been somewhat of a problem. They are working on a synthetic version of that, so they no longer have to do that. The other issue is on the East Coast, in the Delaware Bay area, eel fishermen like to use them in their traps as bait. So there is a commercial harvest of horseshoe crabs for bait. So between that and habitat loss, and they seem to really like the estuarine areas. Now they'll be found anywhere out here in the bays, but they do actually go out into the open sea. They've found them in pretty deep depths out there. But when it's time to breed, the females will come into the bay. They're usually much larger than the males. And she will start to approach a sandy beach such as this one. But she comes up on the beach during the spring high tide, during the spring and the fall of the year. So we're looking at April, May, and June here, and then we turn around and do our horseshoe watch again, October, November, and December. And during that spring high tide, plus or minus an hour or 2 of high tide, she will approach the sandy beach here. A lot of times the smaller male is actually on her back. He's got a modified foot that's literally a hook. He will grab onto her, and so he will ride with her all the way up. And sometimes you'll see 4 or 5, up to 8 sometimes, of other males, little males, following them up to the beach. We refer to those as satellites, and you'll see that on the data sheet. So what we ask you to do, what she'll do is she'll come up on the beach, and right at spring high tide, where the water is the highest up that it's going to be for that month, she will lay her eggs. And then the males scramble to fertilize them when she's done, and then they all head back out into the bay. So the next week or so, the tide will not come up that high, waiting for the next spring high tide, and the eggs will incubate. And the next spring tide that comes up, they hatch, and the little baby, they come out looking just like the adults. Little baby horseshoe crabs start running all over the water. So to try to find out how they're doing in the state of Florida, FWC has a tagging program, as I said, called Horseshoe Crab Watch. here in Escambia, Santa Rosa County, in the Pensacola Bay area, we have not seen live horseshoe crabs in several decades. There are places where they were once common. Little Sabine on Pensacola Beach, that shallow water that boats always seem to run aground. The old timers have told me that that was once an island, and it was known as Horseshoe Crab Island because the horseshoe crabs used to nest there. We occasionally do see them. I've had enough people over the last 2 years report a single individual, and I've been putting pins in a map so I know where everybody's seeing them. And so what we are doing now is we're asking volunteers to go to those spots where we see them most often during a spring high tide in the spring or the fall, and walk that beach looking to see if they can find any horseshoe crabs. That's basically what we're going to ask you to do. You will have a data sheet. It'll just ask you what is your location. We have 9 transects set up already. One of them is over the Perdido Key area. The other 8 are all on Pensacola Beach. You'll just go down there, walk the beach. Most of them are about a half mile. The distance of the walk is about a half mile. Some a little longer, some a little shorter, but you can kind of count or bank on that. And you'll walk the beach and look for them. If you see them, all you got to do is write down yes, no, how many. You'll see the data sheet. We're not going to collect or tag them at this point. If we start finding a lot of nesting activity, and that would be a whole bunch of them in one spot, then we'll move to the tagging. But right now we are not ready in our waters to do the tagging. In the fall this year of 2021, many of the spring high tides are going to be after midnight, so we're not going to fool with that one. We're going to focus on days during that time of year when the spring high tide is occurring between sunrise and sunset. So if this sounds like something that you want to do, you'll see my email address on the bottom of the screen right now. All you need to do is contact me. I'll get you the paperwork and we'll get you on a site and get you going. Thanks very much.